Hola Madridistas, welcome back to another episode of Let's Be Real podcast. This is the big one, the Champions League final on Saturday. Wembley, both of us, Dortmund and Madrid, basically kind of, counted down the days ever since the semi-final ties were done with. Dortmund, their domestic season was basically, a season, they could have dreamt, wish could have gone differently. Ours were basically, done and dusted ever since the Clasico. So the entire attention has been on this landmark game on the European stage, and Dortmund had to wait. How many years has it been? 11 years to get here again, 12 years to get here again, and we have been here in less than 2 years. Both of us didn't expect really at the start of the season to be here. The expectation at Madrid is definitely, to win the Champions League, but realistically, this wasn't a position we were anticipating. This was a transition season. Dortmund know themselves very well, how their domestic troubles has been an ongoing trend for the entirety of this season. But the way they have kind of turned the tables around in Europe is an incredible achievement, incredible story. Starting from all the way to the from the manager to the fans. It's been a while, but before we get to the boys, I'll have to basically reintroduce Ben again. It's been almost a year, but it's an absolute pleasure to have Ben McFadyean on the show again. German specialist writer for the BBC, for iTV, president of Borussia London. We had the pleasure to talk to him, for the Jude Bellingham special back in, I think it was June of 2023. And a year on from all that praise, Ben, we are back, basically to lock horns in the Champions League final. Talk to us.
Absolutely great. Nice to see you guys. Jacob, Mohammed, and Hogazama. Is that the pronunciation?
You can call him Mo. You can call him Mo.
It's fine.
Mo. Okay, cool. Great. So best greetings to India, and thank you so much for taking an interest. As you guys know, I used to write for the Jersey, the New Delhi-based football magazine.
Just for the record, we don't live in India, Ben. Yeah, we don't live in India.
Right?
We don't.
Okay.
Just Jacob lives in India. Jacob lives in India. Me and Mo, we live in the North America. So,
yeah. Okay. Well,
right.
Jacob to India.
Right.
As they say, Jai Hind, right?
100%.
So for the Indian listeners out there, best greetings. And it's a country I have a huge affinity with, and I love coming on your show. And thank you so much for taking an interest in Borussia Dortmund. It's always a pleasure. My brother, as you know, is a Madridista, Oscar. So hi to Oscar. He's a huge Real Madrid fan, especially since the days of Roberto Carlos. And I can understand that very well. Also, Predrag Mijatovic as well, who you probably remember.
100%, yeah.
But both of us were raised by a Dortmund dad, and so of course we are Dortmund fans. And yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. I'm doing a PhD on German football and writing a lot, as you said, and also have run the Dortmund fan club for 11 years now, going on 12 years. And yeah, in fact, it was exactly just before the Champions League final when we started the fan club in Ealing in London. We organized a party for 500 fans, and this time we've got approximately 1,500 coming. So the scale is going way up, and I think it's thanks to Real Madrid, such a huge, massive club,
The occasion, basically. Yeah. 100%. The occasion definitely calls for, the scale that you just mentioned, especially at a place like Wembley. I think it's fitting. Because this matchup, let's be honest, the odd makers, the bookmakers can waffle all they want about how one team is the massive favorite, but whenever we have faced each other, especially in recent memory, like, let's leave out the group stages because the jeopardy isn't quite the same, right? But in the knockouts, whenever we have met, it has been a completely different story altogether. We can talk about the 2012-13 Champions League semi-final where Lewandowski basically completely manhandled us single-handedly, and then the 2013-14 quarterfinals, if I'm not mistaken, where we took a 3-0 lead at home. We were cruising, and then we go away um, to the Signal Iduna Park, and then it was an onslaught, and we were lucky to actually survive it. Di Maria missing a pen, Iker uh, being nervy, in like on so many occasions. I still remember those ties, and look back and fondly remember very tough fought battles, hard fought battles, in my opinion. But on the Madrid side, I'll come to you first, Jacob. What's your initial feeling, right? Like going into the final, when this was kind of set in stone, were you confident that this will be a tie that we can manage?
Yeah, I was definitely confident maybe 2 weeks before, but then I saw
Yeah.
the recent results in the Europa League, in the FA Cup, and I'm like, wait, something is going on. There's something strange in the air. People are drinking different kinds of Kool-Aid. So, yeah, I'm just definitely a bit more nervous than I was before. But yeah, we definitely should be able to get the job done. However, we have to take this seriously, and I'm sure the players our fans have to take it seriously as well.
Yeah, the neutral perspective is what is a bit skewed in my opinion. But yeah, our fans, more often than not, I've seen them, at least this time, being a bit more nervy. It's normal, it is the Champions League final. But Mo, talk to us. Heading into Saturday, what's the vibe like?
Yeah, for me personally, I have to echo what Jacob said. Like when the draw was made, I was like, when we found out that we are going to be facing Dortmund, everybody was like, yeah, man, this is probably going to be not that difficult of a game, so to speak. We coming off facing Manchester City, but that's probably the most toughest fixture that you can face in Europe right now, and that kind of felt like a final before the final. And then we went head to head against Bayern, like Bayern, Real Madrid. There's a history there. It's the European Classico for a reason, and the game lived up to the billing. But right now we're facing Dortmund, so you kind of feel that it's a step down. But then you see what the results were in other European ties. I mean, Leverkusen were like heavy favorites against Atalanta, but Atalanta pulled off the impossible. We've seen other streaks getting ended all across Europe in the past few weeks. So for me, I mean, we have a streak of our own, right? We kind of have never lost in the Champions League final. So
Yeah.
maybe Dortmund have other ideas. So you have to always be careful. And then the fact of the matter is that you have to give a respect to the opponent who reached the Champions League final. I remember Mats Hummels was saying after the semi-final that everybody wanted to face us, so we're being nice enough to face everybody. So yeah, I mean, that's a funny way of looking at it, but at the end of the day, Dortmund deserve to be here, and any team that reaches the Champions League final, irrespective of where they started from, irrespective of the players that they have on the team, irrespective of how we might perceive the skill level and the talent level in their players, they have earned respect, because European Champions League, the final is the biggest competition. UEFA Champions League is the best club competition in the world. So you kind of have to give respect to whoever reaches the ultimate stage of it. So Dortmund have deservedly been there. I mean, we have seen their defense. I think they kept a shutout against PSG. And when you look at the PSG attack with Ousmane Dembele, Kylian Mbappe, and whoever is playing, maybe I think it was Barcola who was playing for PSG in those two games. I mean, nothing to scoff at. I mean, only Mbappe, you have to look at it. This guy has performed the biggest stages. We were totally expecting PSG to go through, given the fact they didn't. I mean, you have to look at Dortmund and see. I mean, they have to be doing something right. So
They have to be doing something right, but let's be honest, PSG struck the post 4 times.
Yeah, sure, but then in the game there was the commentator who said something. He said that it's all the luck always goes into the side that's defending well. So yeah, sure, they had luck. PSG maybe hit the post a few times too many, but then there were other times where PSG couldn't get a shot on goal, and that was because of how brilliant they were defensively. And going forward, they have the likes of Nico Füllkrug, even Mats Hummels on corners can be a threat. Jadon Sancho has been completely revitalized. I mean, how many players have left Dortmund to play in the Champions League finals, and now these guys are like Ousmane Dembele. They left Dortmund potentially. When you look at it, you're kind of thinking they're leaving because they want to perform in Europe. but
Yeah.
then Dortmund have reached the Champions League final before Ousmane Dembele ever did. So full credit to them, and it's not going to be an easy task with the Champions League final. The pressure is going to be on everybody, and let's see which. I hope it's us, but I'm sure the best team is going to win.
Your
Right.
thoughts, Ben, listening to all this? Like,
Yeah,
would you consider lucky to go past PSG?
Jacob, Mo, really good assessments there. I think you both come at it from different perspectives. I think, Mo, you showing a lot of depth of understanding, also of interest in our team as well. You've looked at our campaign and so on. And Jacob, you're also conscious of the fairly difficult season we've had so far in the league and so on. Mind you, Bayern München has also struggled very badly because of Bayer Leverkusen's dominance, which basically is a lot of it's to do with Xabi Alonso, a player which you guys know very well. Basically, yeah, it's been a very tough season. It's been a lot of ups and downs. You know, obviously, our last game of the season, we were supposed to take the title from Bayern, winning at Mainz. So we went 2-0 down very quickly, and then after that, we only managed to pull off a 2-2. The disappointment was unbelievable. You know, after 11 years of waiting to win the title again, and that has been very much in the psyche of the players pretty much all season. But I think what Mo made really clear is that Dortmund has a surprisingly good number of players in the side across many different positions. And I think that, you know, I think both of the boys basically made it very, you know, they had good insight in the fact that they were saying about our defense, about players like Germany internationals like Nico, Schlotterbeck, who is an outstanding player, the new addition of Ian Maatsen from Chelsea, who we would be incredibly lucky to have him. I think that, you know, Dortmund is a much stronger side on many positions right now than they had been, let's say, 6 months ago or so, you know, well, at the beginning of the season, basically. So, you know, the additions of players like Ian Maatsen has made a very huge difference. Also, Niklas Füllkrug as well, who is Germany's probably main striker right now and has done exceptionally well. And then, of course, you have to add in Julian Riasson, who is a Norway international defender. So, I mean, you know, apart from that, of course, Mats Hummels has had a season from heaven, basically. He's probably last season with us. He's almost certainly going to leave us for Juventus, I believe. And I think that's a wonderful swan song for him. But Mats is not the only player leaving. We can talk about that. But some huge names are basically expecting to leave on a high, not just Toni Kroos on your side. And yeah, this is a beefed up Dortmund side that has enormous amounts of inspiration and who are basically ready for anything, as we saw against PSG, a vastly richer and more successful side, you know, that we basically defended the hell out of, basically, and just got some lucky punches in over 2 legs. And, you know, at the end of the day, I think that is Dortmund's skill, is that they have that ability to really push to the 95th or 100th minute, whatever is necessary, and that they defend as a team. However, at the end of the day, there's no doubt about it, and I think most German analysts are looking at it in that way. Real Madrid, across the side, across the squad, I mean, is a vastly superior side.
100%. One thing that I would also point out is the fact that Dortmund, at least stylistically, compared to most other matchups we have had in the Champions League, I think Dortmund is the one that mirrors our philosophy, at least the current philosophy that we deploy on the pitch, almost on a 1:1 ratio, because Dortmund excel at basically being compact, being very disciplined, and then breaking with tremendous pace, like you just mentioned, Adeyemi, Maatsen. But let's start with Terzic, right? Ben, his journey from being part of the Yellow Wall to being the head coach. Can you basically enlighten us a bit more on what he embodies, and basically how this guy is kind of the talisman, basically, from the sidelines for this young Dortmund side?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, I was doing a television program this week with Premier League stories for ESPN, and I think at the end of the day, it was a Jurgen Klopp special about his career, and looking at it from lots of different angles. I was doing the Dortmund side of it, and I think that what's really abundantly clear is that unlike most of the coaches we'd had before that, when Jurgen Klopp came in, he was a young, dynamic guy from essentially a newly promoted club, Mainz, which essentially he was raw talent, if you like, really raw talent. And Dortmund has a wonderful ability, obviously, to spot raw talent. We've seen that over the decades with players like Shinji Kagawa, Christian Pulisic, Robert Lewandowski, Erling Haaland, and so on. So, Jude Bellingham, Jadon Sancho.
Hakimi.
Ashraf Hakimi as well, which was on loan from Real Madrid, and I wish we'd hung on to him. To be honest, he's more than worth the 40 million that you guys were asking for him. Saying that Jesus Reina was a player that you could have easily kept in Real Madrid. We didn't need that guy.
Let's not talk about Reina for now. But I get the grievances here. I completely understand it.
You guys, but I guess it was your revenge for Nuri Sahin when we lent you Nuri Sahin and he didn't work out.
Nuri Sahin was a decent player. I wouldn't really say anything bad about Nuri Sahin.
I mean, Ben, I get your point over Renier, but the thing is, like, you guys should have let him go earlier. I mean, I don't understand why Borussia Dortmund kept on hanging to him when it was obvious that he wasn't going to get game time. He was obviously not performing to your levels. But the interviews that his parents did, the interviews that his family did, it's always been that Dortmund didn't want to let him go. I mean, 1 year, that the guy's not going to perform. So I don't really understand why Dortmund kept him on for so long,
Yeah, okay. Well, I think he got his chances, but I mean, he didn't take them. So the bottom line is that, as you said before yourself, that this Dortmund side is a very strong mixture of young talents and highly, highly, highly experienced players, and it's one that can pull a rabbit out of the hat. But they are aware that obviously the challenge of playing against a team which is solid across all positions and extremely battle-hardened, led by Toni Kroos, as you said, who wants to go out on a massive high. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Jude is one of your key weapons, and of course, it was an absolute pleasure big upping Jude this time last year, I think, when we talked about him. And I know that I didn't overpromise when I said that Jude is going to make a huge impact. And he's another English player, as a guy based here in London, another great English player who's played for Real Madrid, like David Beckham, or going all the way back to Laurie Cunningham and other English players that have played for your club. So, I was going to say Michael Owen, but I guess he didn't quite work out that well.
I knew the words were to your mouth, and I was going to say, please don't say Michael Owen.
Yeah. But anyway, so, will Dortmund have Jude Bellingham licked, basically? The question is, can we somehow find a remedy against him? We know him inside and out, if you like. He developed with Borussia Dortmund. Will we be able to work out how to neutralize him the way that we neutralize Mbappe by putting two defenders on him at all times? And that really worked well. So, I mean, the PSG, we were right back to the kind of Borussia Dortmund that all Dortmund fans loved, which is absolutely passionate, back-to-back defending, totally committed, and pulling something out and pushing right into the very last dying seconds of the game and so on. So, I mean, that's the kind of BVB that we love. That's the kind of BVB that you experience when you play out of 81,000 in the Signal Iduna Park. And, we are hoping 70 to 80,000 Dortmund fans are coming to London this weekend. And if our phone calls are anything like it, we ourselves, the London Fan Club, are organizing for 1,500 fans across 6 locations, which are all sold out. So you can imagine the yellow wall is coming in force to London, and we're going to be supporting our team. But at the end of the day, the battles are obviously the ones that we're going to see on the pitch.
Yeah. I was basically about to ask you about Terzic, basically, Ben. Can you talk to us a bit more about him?
Absolutely, you're so right. Well, look, I think the point that I was going to make about that is just really simple, that Kloppo was the glue that connected the Südtribüne, the South Stand, the main South Stand, which is where the ultras are, and the team and the rest of the stadium and the whole scene. He basically brought everybody together in a really strong way. And since he left, we've had a series of different coaches, and we haven't really been able to find that young, dynamic coach. Perhaps Marco Rosa could have been the one, but he then left after just one season, with Edin Terzic taking a back seat role, basically in a sporting director type position. And then basically they took a punt, bringing back Edin Terzic. And Edin Terzic won the 2021 DFB Pokal, but that's basically been all he's been able to contribute per se. I think in terms of the growth of the club, and I think that there's been a lot of doubters about him. But in terms of his own personal background, which I think is the question that you're trying to ask, so I think there's a lot of football romanticism, as there always is around Borussia Dortmund, because it's the underdog football club, and it's one that's very much based on that dynamic of youth and so on. So a lot of people make a lot out of Edin's personal background. He's from a Croatian background, East European, grew up in Germany, went to school locally in Werl, if I'm not mistaken, and which is about 40 kilometers away from Dortmund. He is a guy, definitely is a guy who was going to watch football matches in the Yellow Wall. As you say, he's a fan. In fact, to be fair, Dortmund has a policy of recruiting guys who have a strong interest in the club, who've been fans themselves growing up and so on. They do their research very well. And when the player has a natural connection, like, for example, Marius Wolf right now, who's probably leaving us soon, defensive midfielder, they will say, okay, this guy, he has potential, has all the right credentials, and he's a BVB fan. And you find the same thing with the employees at the club. A lot of the employees, people who work in the club, have a BVB background themselves. They're season ticket holders, etc., etc., etc. So they like to keep things very tight, which is not untypical for a small city like Dortmund of just 500,000 people. So the story about Edin is basically that he goes off, having been a reasonable player, you know, playing 4th division, 5th division, and so on. He then goes off and he becomes assistant manager. He goes to West Ham United, and then he goes on to Besiktas, and eventually comes back to Dortmund. In Dortmund, he's fulfilled a lot of different roles within the company, the football club, I should say, which ultimately ends up with the sporting director type role, and then they push him back into the coaching role when things basically don't work out. And there have, sincerely, I will tell you honestly, there have been doubts about him, simply because we as a club haven't grown, really. It would appear that they haven't been making the most out of the talent that's available. And at times, the football that's been played hasn't really satisfied people. And it's felt really quite disappointing at times. So I think that there's a real wish and a desire to be very much back in the days of Jurgen Klopp, you know, somebody who could be the glue between the fans, the incredible fans, and the team. But at times, he has lacked a certain edge, a certain maturity, a certain strategic nous. Now, I'm just going to add a further dimension to that, which is that our former captain and great player, Sebastian Kehl, took over from Michael Zorc as sporting director, and that didn't work. And so basically we've had some big switches and changes during the season in the sort of technical level of the back room. And so basically the club has been in a big flux. And so the one continuity, if you like, has been Edin Terzic. And I think, to be fair, he has grown into the role and he has started to mature. If I'm not mistaken, he's 39 or 40, like that. So he's a very, very young coach. And he's grown into it. And I think that now, because they've brought more experience into the back office and made certain promotions and changes and so on at a higher level, I think the club is starting to mature into a real potential German title-winning club.
Right.
It's okay.
Yeah, go for it more.
All right, Ben, we've been talking about Edin Terzic, you know, so we've seen, like, in Europe, this guy's been incredibly successful with Dortmund. but then the Bundesliga season hasn't been that great. What do you think are the differences between his approach in the Bundesliga compared to the Champions League, and why do you think it hasn't worked out in Bundesliga, but it has so spectacularly in the Champions League?
I wouldn't say that it's that. I would say that simply that we've kept adding good players during the season, like Jadon Sancho, and also Maatsen and Riasson and so on. And also that certain players have performed quite weakly at times. Karim Adeyemi hasn't looked like the player that we needed him to be. He has enormous talent. He's obviously a German international, very young player. Sebastian Aller, after his testicular cancer scare, he performed very well for Ivory Coast in Africa. They won the AFCON, obviously African Cup of Nations, a tournament I really love. And but he's performed extremely weakly and hasn't at all met the expectations. Also Felix Nemetša, again, both of those players, 25-30 million euros, so huge record signings for BVB. Neither of them have performed. Adeyemi, again, 25 million signing. He hasn't performed to the standard. Youssoufa Moukoko, coming in from the youth in his second professional season. Massive talent, scored 300-400 goals at youth level. Germany under 21 international, European champions with Germany and so on. Hasn't performed to the standards. So it's been more like certain players have disappointed the club. Obviously, Nemetša, particularly from Wolfsburg, came in to fulfill the role of Jude Bellingham. And, those were massive shoes to fill, obviously, because not only was Jude a wonderful all-round talent who could play well defensively and offensively, but he was a massive leader for the club. And I think this leadership role is basically what Jadon Sancho has managed to come back again from Man U, from his very depressing phase with Manchester United, and basically step into the shoes of Jude Bellingham again, which were the shoes that Jude Bellingham had stepped in when Jadon left. These young English guys, they just have a different edge to them, and we're seeing that also at Bayern München as well, with the young English guy. I forget his name now. Somebody remind me. It'll come back to me. Anyway, they have a certain edge, and they're having a certain leadership, and I think that that's basically what we're seeing, is that Jadon Sancho has revitalized his own career, but he's also revitalized the attack in the Dortmund side. And that natural, amazing friendship that he has with Marco Reus has just been a real anchor for the club. So I think what's happened is that the club has basically been improving steadily as the season went on. And a lot of it comes down to those extremely crucial signings that I mentioned that we made in the January transfer window.
Right. Pardon my ignorance, because I don't really follow Bundesliga, so I wouldn't really know the answer to this, and it's probably going to be a single word answer. But have you felt that the form of Dortmund, especially in the second half, because you're talking about how the transfers have helped, throughout as the season has gone on. So have you been satisfied with Dortmund's performance in the Bundesliga, especially in the second half?
I wouldn't necessarily say at all satisfying because of the style that they've been playing, but they've shown in different moments their potential and their ability to play a system and with an enthusiasm and a commitment. Dortmund is a working class industrial city, former steel and coal mining city, a bit like Pittsburgh in the US. So, the people of Dortmund, where I grew up half of my childhood, about hard work, if you know what I mean, guys. They know about hard work, and they know what it is to have somebody's back and to support each other, and working down a coal mine or in a steel mill. These are dangerous places. I've been in a steel mill myself. I know what it's like. It's hot, it's dangerous, and you got to have your wits about you. And that is the mentality, basically, is Dortmund is a working class city nowadays, quite a lot of unemployment. People need the team to perform, and they want to see that fighting spirit, that real Borussia spirit. And at times there's been a sense that we have highly paid multi-millionaire players on the pitch that don't represent this badge, that don't truly identify with the Ruhrgebiet, as I said, the coal mining, steel area, industrial area, hard-working area. And, you know, there's been a sense of perhaps at times that they're not getting the most out of these players. That, you know, you've got exquisite players like Julian Brandt, for example, who came from Bayer Leverkusen, who has unbelievable technical ability and so on. And, you know, just sometimes there's just been a sense of frustration that they haven't been performing, you know, in the way that we would expect, showing their full potential and being totally 100% committed. And my opinion is that that has been something which some of the players have been aware of, including Julian Brandt himself. And you know what? For Julian Brandt to not be selected for the championships this summer is spectacular, and it goes to show that his season ultimately hasn't been as good as it has been in the last couple of years. So I think Dortmund's is all about a team effort right now rather than certain individuals. And indeed, as I said before, and I've stressed that, certain individuals have perhaps really not had the best of seasons. So it's been a very mixed season. And to finish way behind, you know, Bayer Leverkusen and Bayern München and so on, and to watch, you know, VfB Stuttgart, who we haven't seen for years. Last year they were battling against relegation. This year they ended up in second place, if I'm not mistaken, ahead of Bayern München. So, you know, what a crazy season. Two teams that nobody had on their radar go and end up first and second. And of course, then there's always the threat of RB Leipzig. So, you know, it's been an incredible season, but for all the wrong reasons for BVB. And yeah, I mean, our saving grace, as Mo pointed out, has been the fact that somehow we've stumbled from one wonderful European night into the next, and to have Real Madrid on Saturday is hugely exciting for all of us.
Right. I'll come to you, Jacob. Right. Like Edin Terzic was basically mentioning that this streak has to end, and basically he's implying that they have a huge chance to cause a massive upset. Do you think it's basically someone who is kind of, you know, going about his PR routine, or do you think this Dortmund side, from the outside looking in, has enough conviction to cause one of, or if not, the greatest upset in, let's say, 50 years in Europe?
Yeah, it definitely could be, man. If that man is so confident that he's saying this, he must have seen the cracks. We know as Real Madrid fans, we are not perfect. This team is not perfect. We have our weaknesses, and it's there to be exploited. But at the same time, we are so dangerous. And the fact is that he must have been preparing. He must have been seeing the cracks. He must have been seeing the game against Leipzig, how that panned out, how Leipzig were able to push us back with just their intensity and the fastness of play. So those are things that he can definitely target, but it's going to be a tall order. It's going to have to be a perfect game from Dortmund to actually get a result.
Ben, this is basically the task, right? Like, we haven't really lost a I mean, not a Champions League final, a European final in 40 years. That includes like I think 8 Champions League finals and 2 UEFA Cup finals. So what Dortmund has to do is basically the unthinkable, right? So we can slowly start getting into breaking down the final itself. What do you think are the chances realistically, and where do you think your team stands the best chance to hurt Real Madrid inside the 90 minutes?
Well, I think Atletico Madrid, I remember watching that game intensely, and they pushed you very, very far. Atletico Madrid, whenever that was, 2000, and when was that, 2008 or something like that? Or
the Champions League final, 2014 and 2016 as well.
Yeah, so I think they pushed you very, very close. For Dortmund, this is the 3rd Champions League final. For us, it's we've played 2 UEFA Cup finals. We've played European Cup Winners' Cup final, which we won in '66 as the first German team. And this is our 3rd Champions League final. Obviously, we beat Juventus in the first one 3-1 in Munich, which was very satisfying to be winning it at Bayern Munich Stadium. As you can imagine, at that time, it was the Olympic Stadium.
100%.
In front of the Munich fans, you know, we were loving that absolutely. And I have to say, then after that, playing Bayern München, you know, they pushed us right to the wire, or we pushed them to the wire, and then Arjen Robben 11 years ago in Wembley Stadium, weirdly in Wembley again. So it was pretty, you know, we're back to Wembley again. You know, it is a big challenge. It's an enormous challenge for us, basically. I think that I won't, you know, give you any kind of false ideas. It's a big surprise to BVB to be in this final, and to the fans. But we've always been quietly confident that we could go all the way. And I don't know where that confidence came from, because it didn't look like it on the pitch. But there are two really crucial things here, which is Mats Hummels has been an outstanding Germany international defender, leader in defense at Bayern München, at Borussia Dortmund, mainly with Borussia Dortmund. And he has had a season from heaven, basically. And he is the outstanding guy in the back. And he has Maatsen and Riasson and so on. And we have a really, you know, they say that every title-winning team is built on the defense. And right now we have really good defenders and an outstanding goalkeeper in Gregor Kobel, who came from VfB Stuttgart, and, you know, is Swiss international keeper and so on. So, you know, we have got a very solid defense, and I think that that's going to serve us very, very, very well. And it certainly did against PSG. Did you see the game against PSG?
Yes, we did. Kobel has been incredible for the past couple of seasons, at least. Like, I've been super impressed by his performances whenever I've seen him, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think from that perspective, it's going to have to be a question of grinding down our defense's capabilities. And a lot of the battles will be won in the midfield, and there, of course, Jude Bellingham is absolutely decisive. And again, can we basically do what we did to Mbappe and basically neutralize him entirely? And if we can manage to neutralize him, you know, Emre Can has have a very good season. Obviously, Emre Can is a player that you guys know as well. Yeah, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, I would like to emphasize also that Marco Reus is having his last ever game for Borussia Dortmund. And I think you guys will be perfectly aware of who Marco Reus is for us. You know, he's a local Dortmund born boy. He basically is an incredibly gifted player who's had a difficult career because he's had a lot of injuries. But had he not have the injuries, he probably would be one of Germany's absolute record players, because his talent and ability and you know, technical capability and leadership, and what he really means for us in terms of the real fire in his gut and his love for Borussia Dortmund. The fact that he, like, as you said, Terzic is a guy who's been himself on the yellow wall, who's been part of the club since he was like 10 years old. You know, I mean, how many local boys go on to play for their local team and become captain and leader and record goal scorer? He overtook Manfred Burgsmüller, who was the all-time record scorer from 1983. And then Marco has won that. It's his last ever game. So I think in some ways that kind of upscales Toni Kroos for us, you know. And I think when you saw that stunning free kick that Marco scored with his left foot from the edge of the area
against Darmstadt, yeah.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much. Thank you for correcting me. You just saw what incredible ability he has. And I mean, who's going to really keep something like that out? You know, if Marco does something sensational, it can beat any keeper any day, you know. So, I mean, I think his determination alone and his extraordinarily strong friendship with Jadon Sancho and the season that Jadon are having, you know, these are some really key, powerful weapons that Borussia Dortmund has right now. So not just a strong defense, but also a strong attack right now. And as I think Jacob pointed out, Niklas Füllkrug is one of Germany's top strikers right now. So, you know, if I'm not mistaken, he has 15 goals this season, which is decent. And yeah, I would expect him to have a very good game as well on Saturday. He's in good shape right now.
He's someone that really instills a lot of fear in me. at least watching on, because we have been crying about how we deal with corners, how we deal with corners will be kind of rectified since Thibaut will be back in goal. But yeah, deep crosses has been a problem that sometimes, more often than not, like we have been bailed out by some very good individual performances, but collectively defending crosses is a worrisome routine for this Madrid backline. I'll come to you more, right? We have talked about Fulkrug. We have touched on the surface about how this guy has basically been Dortmund's go-to man in big games. When the calling card has been put up to him, he has delivered. Um, how do you think Nacho and Militao is going to handle him, basically? Especially I mean, not Nacho Militao, Nacho Rudiger. Militao is completely out of the equation. Um, this probably might be Nacho's final game as well. Like, how do you
Mo,
think that battle?
remember, Antonio Rudiger is a former Borussia Dortmund player. He's,
Yeah,
he played in our
100%.
till he was like 18 years old. So again, that's a fascinating battle that you highlighted there. It's not just Jude Bellingham, it's also Antonio Rudiger coming back to show
People
his
tend to forget Rudiger's stint at Dortmund. Yeah,
absolutely.
100%.
He was there right and through his youth. Yeah, he was right.
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that's right, Bo. Yeah.
But yeah, over to you, Mo.
Okay, we were first of all, I think Ben laid out a perfect story about how Marco Reus is is the hometown boy, captain, gunning to win his first Champions League, and then you bring up Nacho. I mean, when Ben was talking about Reus, I was completely only thinking about Raul being the guy who came from the youth academy, came from the city, went on to
Yeah.
become captain for Real Madrid, went on to become the greatest goal scorer in the history till Cristiano came around. So that was my thing. But then when you mentioned Nacho, I suddenly was jolted back into reality and realized here's another hometown boy who's going to be playing for his hometown club, who has risen to become the captain. I mean, who has been at Real Madrid for like almost since he was age 11. So it's almost like 21 years at the club without having to leave anywhere. He stuck around. He's not always been given the respect that he deserved in the
Didn't have the
game.
glory of Marco Rios. Let's be honest.
He wasn't always given the respect that maybe a player of his quality commands. But then whenever Real Madrid has needed him, he has always stepped up and delivered. I mean, there have been just games where we kind of felt during the season that Nacho maybe he's in performing to his usual level, especially in the last couple of years. But like ever since when the going gets tough, Nacho gets going, right? Whenever it's the big games, Nacho has always delivered. Be the 2016 Champions League final 2017-18 Champions League final where we were playing against Liverpool and Carvajal got injured. Nacho had to essentially come on, be a substitute player or right back. We know Nacho is a good center back, but he's also delivered in the center back position, right back position. And then you look back to the City time where everybody, including us, we were doubting about how Nacho was going to perform, especially when you come up against a giant like Erling Haaland. But then Nacho stepped up and delivered and showed that he had the mettle to be performing at this level even today. So for me, when it comes to when it comes to narratives, when it comes to storylines, yeah, Toni Kroos is going to hog all the attention, but then this is also probably going to be Nacho's final game for Real Madrid. I remember him doing an interview in the Spanish media where he said that my decision has already been made. It's not going to change whether we win the Champions League or whatever happens. So I don't know what Nacho is doing because there's not been an official announcement like it was in the case of Toni Kroos. But if Nacho is to go, I mean, I would love for him to go with 6 Champions Leagues. I mean, this guy has 5 Champions League already to match the great Paco Gento. I mean, Paco Gento, another Madrid-born player who came through, who's played for us, who's been a legend for us with 6 Champions League, and Nacho matching his tally and becoming the greatest, having the most titles with Real Madrid, maybe for a couple of months if Luka Modric stays. I mean, that would be a story that Real Madrid fans, Madridistas like us would want to come to fulfillment instead of Reus winning. I mean, sorry to say to Ben, but we don't really care about Reus winning the Champions League. That's none of our business. The only thing that matters to us is the fact that Nacho wins his 6th Champions League and goes out on a high. That Toni Kroos wins his 6th Champions League and goes out on a high. That Luka Modric, if he is to leave, goes out on a high. As a fan, for me, the biggest regret has been the fact that how Karim Benzema had to leave Real Madrid, with that defeat at City at the Etihad. So for me, I don't really want to see any of our legends suffer the same fate. I hope our guys win it. our guys go on top. And I can't understand when you say you have the same feeling for Marco Reus. But then, Sunil, coming back to your question about Nicholas Füllkrug and how we're going to defend him, I think we've spoken about it a lot. When Ben mentioned Atleti, I kind of remember that Atleti are the only team that have beaten us this season. And the thing is, like you mentioned, that maybe Dortmund resemble us a lot, but for me, Dortmund also kind of resemble Atleti because they have this striker who's very good in the air, who does incredibly well at holding up the ball and bringing his teammates into the play. That's something that I think. I mean, as much as I hate him, I think Alvaro Morata does that well as well. So having the likes of Jadon Sancho and Ian Maatsen and Karim Adeyemi and everybody playing on the wings, and maybe Ryerson as well. I'm not very familiar with him, but I know that Füllkrug can be brought into play by these guys. So for us, it is very important to deal with the outside wide, deal with the width that Dortmund will have, especially because in the last few games, the one game that comes to my mind is the game against Villarreal, and they had their own Füllkrug-like player. I wouldn't say is the exact same because Sorloth has his own qualities, but then there was that similar threat in the air for Real Madrid and Villarreal. Like they exploited us to the extreme. They really pulled in the crosses from Fran Garcia's side. For us, luckily this time it's going to be Ferland Mendy, and on the other side it's going to be Dani Carvajal, and Fede Valverde is going to play, and hopefully Camavinga is going to play. For me, the biggest worry is, like I said previously, that Tchouaméni is going to be missing, so we don't really have that protection in the box. But then Real Madrid have to do what they have done this season. This season hasn't been about individual. This season has been about the collective. I think for me, the one worry is that Courtois is back, so that level of alarm that used to be there before, because the defenders weren't really sure about how good a protection was behind them. That is gone now. You have Courtois. Courtois, like, he provides you a level of he provides you the level of safety that probably isn't there with the other keepers, as good as they are. So for me, that is the worry, that maybe they drop a little level of alertness. But then this game, if you have to stop Dortmund, I mean, like I said at the beginning, Dortmund have beat the Champions League, so they deserve all of our respect. So I hope they defend him as well as they did with Erling Haaland, and hopefully at the end of the day, Nacho will be lifting his 6th Champions League.
I hope Ben isn't offended. He's just stating what we feel. Just like what Ben was implying to his aspirations earlier. But one thing I can kind of taking a seat back and kind of looking at both sides. Like, obviously I'm going to be biased, right? I'm a Madridista, but the one common thread is the emotion, right? Probably a neutral might think Madrid is all about being this empire who is basically run, driven by being cold, by being cutthroat, by not really showing a lot of emotion. But it's a complete contrast when you take into account how the fans behave. Guys like me, guys like Mo, Jacob, and so many of us. Like we basically are just like Dortmund fans. I don't think the general media perceives us as the same. Maybe it's because of the amount of success we have had over the past couple of decades or so. But do you feel that, Ben? As someone who supports Dortmund, is it really, like, when you look at the headline, right? Dortmund against Madrid in the Champions League final. Is it Dortmund against the empire for you?
No, Dortmund is a club which, on a good day, can beat anyone at all, and we've proven that over decades. And the sheer volume of Dortmund. I mean, when we played against Bayern München in the 2013 final, I'm a London native, and you could hardly see any red shirts in London. I mean, you saw only yellow shirts all around London, and I feel that you're probably going to see, again, the Madrid fans in London are going to see such an overwhelming wall of yellow, what we're calling this time the Wonder Wall, and people are going to be really impressed with the sheer presence of Borussia Dortmund. Now, as far as I'm concerned, on the pitch, it's going to go one of two ways. Either we can withstand the pressure or we can't. But if we withstand the pressure, then anything's possible, right? And that, at the end of the day, is an absolute 100% team effort. Terzic is a relatively inexperienced coach per se, and I don't know how we're going to be set up strategically as yet. They're being very, very closed about the strategy that we're going into, which is fairly uncharacteristic, I would say, to some degree. But at this stage of the game, with
Do you think you guys are gonna stray away from the template 4-2-3-1 that has brought you immense success in Europe this season?
There's very little information has been forthcoming so far. They've been very uncharacteristically private about what's going on, basically, in terms of strategy or perception. That we're pretty clear in terms of injuries right now, and it's very hard to know what team basically is going to be going out onto the pitch. But I can certainly get a very good idea of on recent form which players are likely to be going out. But either way, I think a lot of Dortmund fans, I think Dortmund to some degree, I don't know if this is a realistic thing to say, but I'm just going to say my point of view, are blanking out who we're playing against. We are just going to go out there and do our thing and do our utmost to withstand the pressure and then show some technical qualities which basically give us an edge where we get it. I think that we have been training very hard in terms of penalties. We have a very clear strategy for penalties. Penalties, as the England team, and you guys will know this, have found out again and again over the decades, is an absolute 100% speciality of Germans. German teams, they're very, very good at it. So we would be wanting to push into extra time and penalties if we have the chance. And I think there we would certainly have an advantage. But again, a team like Real Madrid, as I said, my brother lives in Spain and my parents live in Spain, and I watch La Liga and I see the sheer quality that you guys have. And I mean, at the end of the day, you're competing against outstanding sides in La Liga week in, week out, and I was actually, more than anything, I was amazed that Girona could go as far as they did. So I was thinking to myself, perhaps this season wasn't going to be Real Madrid's season. Perhaps, things were being mixed up a bit over there. Maybe you weren't able to take advantage of Barcelona's crisis and so on. But, at the end of the day, Real Madrid has come out again on top. And, I mean, what can I say? I mean, there'd be little doubt that you can,
Trust me, the league season, Ben, it was anything but straightforward.
Exactly.
It's a huge credit to Carlos, commitment and desire to, see over this league title.
That's exactly what I felt. And at the end of the day, like we weren't able to take advantage of Bayern's weakness last season, I was thinking to myself that you aren't going to take advantage of Barca's weaknesses. And as I said, where our Bayer Leverkusen was your Girona to some degree. And, Pep Guardiola's brother, has been doing an outstanding job with the club. Although, to be fair, I mean, as an English fan, I'm pretty sick of Manchester City and their little, factory farm of little clubs all over the world. It kind of stinks. I have a lot more respect for Real Madrid for being a purist, genuine fan, member-owned football club, member-run football club, with, let's face it, one of the most outstanding football stadiums in terms of modernization and update. And I was at the Santiago Bernabeu a few years ago, and I would love to go and see the new Real Madrid stadium. So I'm really jazzed to be playing against you. For us, it's a family thing. My brother and I, we're both very much BVB fans, but he's a total diehard Real Madrid fan, and so I think he's probably going to be wearing a shirt half Real Madrid and half Dortmund, but secretly he's going to want Real Madrid to win it again. I mean, I mean, your team your club is outstanding, and Dortmund, at the end of the day, they have to, and I think most fans are doing that, put it out of their minds. If we can beat Bayern München on a regular basis, then we can also beat Real Madrid or Barcelona, as we've proven in recent seasons. And that, I mean, the 4-1 in the last semi-final we played against you, 4-1, I mean, it was an absolute smash and grab, but at the end of the day, that's what it's going to be. If we do it, it's a team effort, and it's going to be a smash and grab, and it's going to be a few momentary lapses of concentration, and then suddenly someone like Nick Füllkrug or Marco Reus are able to pull off something crazy. That's what it's going to have to be. But I mean, obviously the bookmakers are making Real Madrid strong favorites to win this, and I mean, I'm not at all surprised. But Dortmund is always ready to pull off a surprise.
100%. That's one thing that like I'm pretty sure the players and the coaching staff. I was speaking to Carlos' assistant the other day, and the message is clear. There's not going to be any ounces, not an iota of any way that the team or the coaching staff is undermining what Dortmund can bring to the table. Just like most of us fans kind of give the respect to Dortmund, the entire approach from the club is basically Dortmund is here for a reason, right? Like they have completely earned their spot on the final berth, and they're going to give it a fair, good go to lift that Champions League. And in games like this, like what we saw probably in the Bayern second leg, where the bookmakers and a huge part of the neutrals were basically counting out Bayern, saying that like Madrid at home it's not going to be a cakewalk, and it was anything but, right? Like we completely gave away control of the game for large parts, especially the momentum. I would say not much control, because we had a few amount of chances ourselves, but Bayern were comfortable until Neuer kind of made that mistake that cost them the tie. I just hope we don't get to that position in the final. Although I can go on, Ben.
Jump in, guys, really quickly on that. Remember another thing: German football is really strong right now. Bayer Leverkusen got to the Europa League final. We've got 6 teams playing in the Champions League in the next season. Even our Heidenheim, who came straight up from the second division in their first season in
Bayern.
Heidenheim have got a place in the conference, and that's all the way to 8th or 9th position. So I mean, don't underestimate the if you think back to Greece, when was it, 2004 was it? I don't remember, but when they won the European Championship and they had the Olympic Games in
Athens.
In Athens, that's right. They had it in the back of their head, and we've got the European Championship in just 3 weeks' time in Germany. And trust me, that is an enormous confidence boost for German football right now. Not only have our league done incredibly well in Europe, and compared to the English clubs who had one team across all 3 competitions in the semi-finals, German football right now is really confident, it's really well funded, and it's got the European Football Championship and a very strong German side which can reckon itself probably to reach the semi-finals. So the German players are very confident, and I think that right now German teams feel, and we've seen that they can beat anybody. I think if anything, Bayer Leverkusen losing to Atlanta Bergamo was a big shock. But at the end of the day, all we need now is basically a Dortmund win, and then German football is going to be feeling extremely confident, in contrast to the other leagues in Europe, and including especially the Premier League. And so I think that's something that one has to take quite seriously, is that German football is on top right now in Europe, basically.
100%, and deservedly so. People kind of have resorted to basically doing the easy job of downplaying what the Bundesliga is. That is going to be the easier narrative to kind of explain it to the casuals, right? I mean, that's what sells. But I'll come to you, Jacob, right? The flanks, right? Very pivotal for us. Carvajal and Mendy has done a tremendous job, but what they face in Adeyemi and Sancho are a complete different proposition altogether, because both of them bring completely different set of weapons from 2 different planets. Adeyemi is all about the pace, is all about transition, whereas Sancho is much more like a Grealish when he has the ball, a lot more trickier, a lot more coy in what he's about to do. How do you see that panning out, especially Carvajal? We have seen him getting a bit of a problem when he's pitted up against someone who is electric fast, like Karim Adeyemi.
I feel like Carvajal has got this in the bag. He has faced tricky and very fast wingers before. We saw that against the likes of Gnabry. Carvajal, when he can't get to the winger, he just fouls them. He just has to know how to and how to perform in these types of big games. I'm more worried about Mendy and how he'll face off against one more tricky winger. We saw how Bernardo Silva and Musiala actually treated him, and it didn't go really well. So I'm like, if Mendy can keep up his level, I'm pretty sure we can potentially shut down the flanks. I'm not really worried about Carvajal though.
Jacob, I kind of have to disagree with you here. I mean, Follow Mendy didn't really struggle against Musiala, and I think the big difference for Real
It was
Madrid
the
actually
team
going
didn't really help out Mendy in so many occasions.
I mean, and for Real Madrid to actually go through against City, I think Mendy has to be a huge reason, because last season we didn't have Follow Mendy and we were playing Eduardo Camavinga for it. How well Camavinga did, he is not a left back, and I think the difference between Real Madrid from last season and this season was the presence of Follow Mendy, and I think I'm less worried about Jadon Sancho against Follow Mendy than I am about Karim Adeyemi against Dani Carvajal. But then I do get your point when you say that, Sunil, that Follow Mendy is probably going to have less help, because I mean, Camavinga is essentially going to be playing as a CDM, so he's going to have to cover centrally as well as going out to the wings, because Cruz cannot do that. So I mean, Cruz is probably going to be covering centrally. Maybe Camavinga goes out in those games, but then apart from that, I think Follow Mendy is probably going to be left alone against Jadon Sancho, and we saw what happens when when a player is like one-on-one against a fullback. I mean, we did see how well Leroy Sané did, so something like that could happen definitely. But then, overall, I'm pretty satisfied, because Follow Mendy has dealt with Rafinha, Follow Mendy has dealt with Lamine Yamal, Follow Mendy. I mean, you've said that he had issues with Bernardo, but I frankly don't see it. But overall, I'm pretty satisfied. Is the other wing that I'm probably a little bit worried about. But then Carvajal is Carvajal. He has the nuance about him, like you said, and it's probably gonna jockeys up on it and somehow, some way, probably get out of it.
The only thing I would ask from Carvajal, I could just envision myself screaming at the TV tomorrow. I mean, in a couple of days, when Adeyemi is going to break, Carvajal is going to have to make life and death decisions in a split second, right? Like he can be rash. He's very smart about it. He's superbly street smart in that regard, that he just knows what kind of a foul to make in a certain situation. I just hope he isn't really forced into an early yellow card. I'm pretty sure that will be the game plan from. Yeah,
I would say this in a transition is defending Karim Adeyemi. If there's a transition happening, especially the defense of Karim Adeyemi probably falls on Fede Valverde and Antonio Rudiger more than Carvajal, because Carvajal, if the season how we've played Carvajal keeps on progressing offensively, it's going to be pretty up high. So for me, I think in transition coming back is like next to impossible if we assume that Real Madrid, dominate the ball and are pushing up high continuously. So for me, I think more than Carvajal, the defense of Adeyemi is probably going to be on Valverde and how Rudiger marshals counters.
Yeah, 100%. I took that into account while saying this, right? Like he can be out of the equation if he's way up top, but if he is backpedaling, I just hope he doesn't completely commit like he sometimes tend to do. He is superbly seasoned in that regard. Maybe like he usually does. Like how he handled Doku to a certain extent. That's what I kind of expect him to show to neutralize Adeyemi, because I think Adeyemi might have disappointed a bit of Dortmund fans. Ben was kind of alluding to the expectations wasn't met, but I think he is someone that can hurt us to a great extent. But yeah, moving on to the midfield battle in general, right? Chan, we all know Chan. He has been part of so many incredible sides. Underrated to a certain extent. People don't really rate him. But Sabitzer is the one that I want to really talk about. Ben, basically a live wire in terms of his energy levels, how he can basically push the team on, both offensively and defensively, has a decent shot in him, has the charisma, has the leadership qualities to kind of be the go-to man in moments of adversity for a team like Dortmund. He tried to kind of get into the mix at Bayern, but it didn't really pan out that well. But it seems like he has found a home at Dortmund and has been one of the standout players this season.
Yeah, I think that's a really exceptional observation, and I totally underline what you said about Adeyemi and Sancho. You've got incredibly skillful, versatile, super fast players. Karim Adeyemi is probably amongst the top 2 or 3 fastest players, and when he breaks, you really need to be, looking out for what's going to happen next, basically. So Karim Adeyemi, undoubtedly wonderful talent that we've brought there, and it's so good to see him coming into his own slowly towards the right time of the season. But yeah, I mean, Marcel Sabitzer, he was obviously with RB Salzburg or RB Leipzig, sorry, before that. And he's an Austrian international. That's why I was confusing that. And he's done very well for the Austrian national team, which is obviously managed by Ralf Rangnick, who've done a fantastic qualifying campaign for Europe. And Sabitzer is one of the key players. So I think we were lucky to up. He came for a decent amount of money, not a lot of money. And as you say, he didn't quite make it at Bayern München, but then Bayern München, similar to Real Madrid, is a club which is well decked at all different positions across the side. And of course, Jamal Musiala was the player that I was trying to think of earlier when I couldn't remember the guy who plays for Bayern, basically half English anyway. I think he's English, but he's born in Germany.
Born in Germany.
Yeah. But the bottom line is that, yes, certainly I would underline what you said about Marcel Sabitzer. Unpredictable, highly skilled, great leadership, great passion, and a real, that kind of Kampfgeist, which is fighting spirit of Austrian players, which we've seen so many times over the years in the past. Determination and ferocity, which is a very strong characteristic of Austrians and Swiss players, and also German players. Obviously, you go back to the classic, fantastic German players that won 4 World Cups. And you just look at the teams, and it was always based on that incredible fighting spirit and determination to dominate. So I think that, yeah, we have a player like that right now, and it's good to see it. But again, Sabitzer has had his moments, but he's also had his off games as well, and you just don't know which Sabitzer is going to turn up. So, I mean, I think it really just depends on how well they're able to dominate, or how they're able to dominate or really push their game, impose their game. And I think that Dortmund is going to be taking a defensive rather than offensive strategy. So they're going to be looking basically to try to soak up the pressure and then make their strong counter-attacking ability, which with our super fast play, and unpredictable players, we have the ability to do, and we're known to do that. And that is, basically very much a Dortmund way. So, you can expect to be surprised. And at the end of the day, whether you can soak up those moments of explosive pressure or not, at the end of the day, that's what it's going to come down to, because Dortmund are not going to go into the game with 2 forwards and looking to attack from the, we know very well that on a pound for pound basis, we don't have the same cover across all positions. So whilst we may have some advantages, at the end of the day, we're going to be relying on our ability to soak up the pressure, which is something I want to emphasize. That's my point of view. And I think that Dortmund has proven that they have a very solid defense. We're not going in with injuries in those areas. And so I think we have the ability basically to do that. But, Jude Bellingham, for me, again, he knows us so well. It's going to be very unpredictable to know whether we're able to handle him or not. And then perhaps, as I said, you may just be finding that somebody like Anton Rudiger, he really wants to show his old club that, kicked him out at 18. He was known as an enfant terrible. He had a bad attitude at Borussia Dortmund. He was known to basically be somebody who didn't fit in, who didn't want to do what he was being told to do. Eventually, he was kicked out. He made his way back over to England, to Chelsea. I know he's got a bone to pick with our football club, and he doesn't speak well of BVB. So, who knows what pivotal role Anton Rudiger might well have,
Yeah, Rudiger's story is also kind of, he was kind of a nomad for a bit, had to ply straight at Roma as well, if I'm not mistaken. So he had to work his way up to the top, really, really work his way up to the top. But Jacob, I think it's the perfect time for the Manscaped app. Big up Manscaped, big up Doris.
Hola, Maderistas. Welcome back once again. I'm here to remind you that if you want to help and support this channel, you do have a way to do that. We partnered up with Manscaped. You can use our code LBR20 to get 20% off and free shipping at checkout at manscaped.com. That's LBR20 for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. So, what it is. Father's Day is also coming up. I'm sure if you don't have a father, there's some other male figure in your life, if it's not yourself. And my guess would be that you all need a new trimmer. If it's your dad, he probably had the same one for the last 15 years, so it might be time to change that one. So look no further, Manscaped is here for you. They have beard trimmers, the highest quality of beard trimmers. You get extra parts with it. It features skin-safe technology. There's spotlights on it. It's waterproof. It's amazing. 80 million men in the world use this. So I'm sure if that many people use it, it must be pretty good. Other things on their site, you can order like the full packages, like the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra. You get a lawnmower, that's a trimmer for downstairs, with extra parts, all the parts. There's so many parts. You have the ear trimmer, nose trimmer. You get the crop soother, the aftershave. Opa. Ball deodorant, boxers, 2 baggies. You get a bunch of things in the packages, so it's definitely worth your money. But you also have shears. You have like mats for your after you shave. You have so many things. Also from creams and lotions and everything that you would need for your beard and your body. For a man, look no further than Manscaped. So yeah, if you really want to, maybe get your dad something or someone in your life, do check out manscaped.com. Use code LBR20 to get 20% off and free shipping. That's code LBR20 for 20% off and free shipping. And thank you guys for watching. Back to the video.
Enough time speaking. Maybe we should
No,
get
it's
him
okay. I
to
was
say
just listening, but yeah, we're back live-wise.
Why did you summarize what you've heard today?
Yeah, I think
100%.
I think what we've heard so far is just that Real Madrid fans, us all
Jacob, I'm sorry, just want to interfere. I work at a clinic, and my doctor is always asking me to summarize like patient histories and stuff. So right now, Ben sounds like that to me, asking Jacob to summarize everything that he have heard today. So that's kind of funny for me.
Oh,
He just came back from the job. He's getting reminded of it. It's a sad state of affairs.
I'm just on the show. I mean, just summarize. He just hasn't had much of a role. Anyway, guys, it's your show. It's your show. Don't hesitate to come back.
You're doing this disservice to Jacob saying that he's not had much of a show, because if he stops being here, the show will be possible.
on,
this
guys.
is all due to Jacob.
Simple as. He is the equalizer, But yeah. Is the ad over, Jacob?
Oh yeah, we're back on live.
You've been on air for a while now.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware. Big up Manscaped.
A bit of banter there. Bit of banter, yeah.
100%. I was thinking this was kind of the bloopers mid roll, but big up Manscaped. LBR20 to get 20% off and free shipping on Manscaped. Big up Manscaped for supporting true fan movements like us, like they've done in the UK for the large part of the last 3 or 4 years. Go check them out. Pioneers of men's grooming. You name it, probably Manscaped has it. LBR20 to get 20% off and free shipping on manscaped.com. Right. I was gonna ask Jacob this question right before we went for the break, right? Basically, Ben was alluding to how the game is how the game can be won is which team basically can handle moments in which they are under immense pressure and then take that momentum and turn it on its head and attack and basically score a goal, and then probably get back into the shape they were at the start. I think that's going to be the blueprint, at least for Carlo and Terzic, on that regard. Like, how do you see that panning out, basically, Jacob?
Man, I think that's not really a concern for me. I know Real Madrid, we can defend well when it matters. I know we can create chances. No matter how many defenders you throw against the likes of Vinicius, he's still going to create 1 or 2 chances in each half. I feel like what it's going to come down to is just if we can actually take our chances. And if we can't, it's going to be a very long night. And that's what I'm actually worried about. And it's going to take, maybe if Vinicius has an off night, it's up to Rodrigo, it's up to Bellingham to actually put the ball in the back of the net. So I just hope, these guys come with their shooting boots on. Otherwise, it's going to be very tough. But another thing that was on my mind, just heading into this final, is that Real Madrid, we have had to face 2 good teams in La Liga coming up to this in the last 2 weeks. Whereas Dortmund, they have had a long rest. They've had to play against reserves to keep up their fitness.
2 weeks.
Yeah, so it's going to be a massive difference. And I feel like Real Madrid are just going to be that much sharper at least. What do you think, Ben? Do you think that's probably a disadvantage heading into this game for Dortmund?
I think that at the end of the day, I think we've covered a lot of the bases. And at the end of the day, there are some very key battles, as Jacob has emphasized and also Mo has emphasized. And at the end of the day, we've got certain things on our side, but we've also got certain disadvantages. And at the end of the day, we know our position, but we also know our determination. And that's one thing that Dortmund has always had in spades. So I think be prepared to be excited, to be thrilled, to see certainly a club which the English fans here are going to be. I think a lot of people want to see Dortmund winning it, a bit like they've seen with the Bayern-Dortmund relationship over the last 11 years. People were longing for the Bayern dominance to be broken. Now, obviously, in England, we have Man City dominating the Premier League, which is again becoming really boring. And people are going to want to see that broken. And I think that people want to see Real Madrid knocked off their perch, especially by a club like BVB. Such a popular underdog. And it's always an honor and a pleasure to speak for BVB, speak with you guys. And I really enjoy coming on your show. And I'm really
100%.
I would love to come back after the show and maybe we can talk about the final and how things went. But I want to do a quick pitch just finally, because as you know, my juice on my phone is running right low right now. So I've had a great hour with you guys.
100%.
I just want to
give us your predictions, Ben. Go for it.
Absolutely. Well, my prediction is 2-1 for Borussia Dortmund. And basically, I think Marco Reus is going to do something spectacularly crazy on his final game. He was the only player that I've seen in the last 2 years to get a 1.0 rating by Kicker Sportmagazin, Germany's biggest football magazine, which unfortunately I've never written for, although I write for 442, which you guys will know is one of the world's leading football magazines. So I'm hoping one of these days that Kicker are going to let me do a nice article. But I wanted to tell you very briefly just about our fundraising party. Big screening. We've got approximately 1,500 ticketless Dortmund fans coming. We've got former players coming. We've got signed shirts like the one that I'm wearing right now, which you can see right here. Tickets are just £1 to take part. We're hoping to raise money for Gaza, for the children in Gaza and Palestine that have been suffering so much ever since the war there broke out, and it's incredibly sad. And I'm really hoping that it's going to be a big success, our auction. And we've got a pre-party going on Friday night. And as I said, we tried to organize a football match with the Real Madrid fans. Unfortunately, that didn't come off, but we're thrilled with the sheer amount of interest in basically coming to London and enjoying the party with us. And for us as a London fan club, we're just totally really excited by the other thing. And then lastly, guys, I just wanted to tell you, this might be Jadon's last game for BVB. He's playing out of his skin to get a contract, but Dortmund are going to struggle to pay Man United their 40 or 50 million that they're greedily asking for a player that they would have happily thrown into a dustbin just 6 months ago. But at the end of the day, we've done a massive mural at Jadon Sancho's school in Harefield Academy, where he went to school himself. the BVB London fan club, we did a 4 meters by 4 meters massive mural of Jadon and Marco Reus together. And if you don't mind, I'll send you a picture of it, and you can maybe share it.
100%.
Whether Dortmund beats you or not, you might be able to share our mural with your fans just to
Share us the links for the charity event as well. It's a great cause, and we'll be 100% on board to make sure it gets maximum visibility.
We do that. Absolutely, guys. You've been really wonderful to talk to tonight, and I don't really know what else to say except I hope some of us get at least 1 or 2 minutes of sleep in the next few days. I heard Mohammed saying
100%.
Tomorrow, my friend, I know exactly how you feel when we won. I didn't take my BVB shirt off for 3 days,
Right. I can imagine. But quickly, Mo and Jacob, your predictions. I'll come to you, Mo, first.
Oh, okay. I mean, I traditionally hate this segment of the show, so I don't know what to say. But yeah, I'll probably go with 2-1 Real Madrid. Rodrigo finally scores, and Real Madrid win.
Jacob.
For me, 1-0 victory. It's going to come in late. First half, it's going to be a story of missed chances. But second half, it's probably going to be Rudiger with the winner.
100%. For people thinking why we kind of have to call an abrupt end to the preview is because of Ben's battery kind of bailing out on us. But I would like to bring up a couple of points. Lonin, super unfortunate that he has fallen sick and whatnot. It's a travesty that he can't even travel to this with the squad to the.
Just to add to that, I think Lonin is going to go to London depending on his health, like later in the week.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like what I'm hearing right now, it seems like he might not actually make the plane. So it's going to be an absolute.
He's not traveling with the squad because of his influenza B thing, but he's not going to.
After the squad goes, you mean? Okay.
Yeah, he's probably going to go to London on Friday.
I hope that's the case. Because if not, it's like I feel terrible. But he should be there. He has every right to be there. He is the reason why we're here. So I just hope he can basically cheer on Thibaut and the boys from the sidelines, and big game like what Jacob mentioned for Rodrigo. There has been some unwanted noise. I don't know if it was intentional. Was it a slip of the tongue? We could get into it. It would be a whole nother episode. I just hope it wasn't said with any substance. It was just a casual conversation. But yeah, this final is a chance to put negative thoughts like that to bed, and I hope being such a massive Rodrigo stan, I hope this is his final. It's his time to basically stamp his authority. We know this is going to be the Jude Bellingham derby. We didn't get much into it because there isn't much to get into Jude Bellingham that the world doesn't already know. Ben spoke about him for over an hour last year around this time, so it's going to be a huge game for him as well. But yeah, Cruz, we all know the drill. The mission is to win for Cruz and Nacho, hopefully, and get the job done. We haven't lost a Champions League final since the 80s, since the 1981 Champions League final against Bob Paisley's Liverpool side. So the task that Dortmund has is kind of a steep one, but we know football can be humbler, can be a bitter pill to swallow when things really don't pan out the way we expect it to. But I'm pretty sure our team is super facilitated, super determined, super willed to get home the 15th. What is it? Six Champions Leagues or 7 Champions Leagues in 10 years? I'm losing count. Six Champions Leagues in 10 years. It's gonna be one hell of a decade for all of us. So yeah, man. A por la quinta. Hopefully 15th in the bag. Until next time, people. Hala Madrid.
I mean, I just want to add one thing that I kind of felt that you missed out on, and we were talking about streaks being ended. And
Yeah.
so Wembley is the stadium with the most Champions League finals, and Real Madrid is the club with the most Champions League victories. But Real Madrid have never won the Champions League at Wembley. So hopefully this is the streak that ends, maybe too much to Ben's chagrin, but yeah, man, that's the thing we want.
Ben is still here. I thought Ben left. That was why I was kind of rushing the whole outro.
I don't know.
Okay.
He kind of looks frozen, so probably he's gone. But anyways, guys,
He's here. He's here. He's blinking. I can see him. He's blinking.
He's on 1%
He's playing
battery,
statue.
guys. He's probably gonna go.
Right. Yeah. But
yeah,
pick up everyone. It was a pleasure, Ben. Like always, it was a pleasure. Absolute pleasure.